All right, so sometimes, a match ends and the score doesn't really tell the whole story, right?
Right.
And we're going to dive into one of those matches today.
Okay.
We're talking Man City versus Inter Milan from September 18th.
A scoreless draw.
Yeah, a 0-0 draw.
Yeah.
Which on paper you see that and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Not too much to see there.
Yeah, it must have been a boring match.
Right.
But this was anything but.
Yeah.
This was the Champions League opener for both of these teams.
Huge match.
Huge match.
Yeah.
And Man City was expected to just completely dominate.
For sure.
So, the fact that they weren't able to pull out a win, that Inter Milan held them to a draw,
Yeah, it raised a lot of eyebrows.
it was kind of a shock
Yeah.
for the football world.
Yeah, and for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you have a team like Man City.
It's considered by many, probably most, to be the best team on the planet. One of the best teams on the planet.
Yeah.
And they're held scoreless.
Right.
I mean, you got to look at it and say, okay, what's going on there?
So, speaking of Man City, we have to talk about, Erling Haaland.
Of course, yeah.
This guy, going into this match, he was sitting at 99 goals for Man City.
99.
1 goal away from being the fastest player to ever hit 100 goals with a single club.
And he's, 23 years old?
I think he might even be younger than that.
It's unbelievable.
It's insane.
And it felt inevitable.
Right. You're right.
Going into that match, you're thinking, okay, this is the night.
Yeah, this has to be it.
He's going to get at least one, maybe two.
Maybe even more than that. Right. I mean, the guy's a goal-scoring machine. But Inter clearly did their homework. They came prepared. You don't just walk into the Etihad and shut down Erling Haaland by accident.
So how did they do it? I mean, the articles we've got here talk about Inter's defense being like a tough nut to crack.
Mm-hmm.
But what was it about their strategy? How'd they actually pull it off on the pitch?
It was a defensive masterclass, honestly. Just really impressive to watch. They didn't just try to contain Haaland. They completely nullified him. They were double-teaming him. They were cutting off his supply lines. They forced him into uncomfortable positions. They basically took away all his strengths. And you could see it frustrated him.
Yeah.
But you got to give Inter credit for sticking to the game plan.
It sounds like they really had an answer for everything Man City tried to throw at them.
Yeah, and don't forget, it wasn't just about defending for Inter. They had some really good chances of their own.
Oh, yeah, the articles mentioned that. They could have actually won this thing.
Absolutely. Thuram in the first half had a golden opportunity. Beautiful counterattack. Inter lured Man City forward and exploited the space with that quick, incisive pass. If Thuram's finishing had been just a little bit sharper.
They could have been looking at a completely different scoreline.
1-0 Inter. Can you imagine?
Would have been a huge upset.
And it would have been deserved, too. It wasn't a fluke. Their game plan was working to a T.
So you've got this incredible defensive performance. You've got these missed opportunities that could have swung the match in Inter's favor. It sounds like they were really in the driver's seat, tactically speaking.
It was like they'd figured out the cheat code to beat Man City.
And I got to say, there was one player on that Inter squad who probably had a little extra motivation going into this one.
Henrik Mkhitaryan.
Talk about facing your old demons. This guy used to play for Man U, right?
3 seasons at Old Trafford. I mean, talk about going up against your former rivals on the biggest stage.
That's got to add another layer of intensity to the whole thing.
Absolutely. Whether that played a part in his performance, who knows, but he was definitely up for the challenge. And it adds an interesting subplot to the whole narrative.
Okay, but on the flip side, we've talked about how impressive Inter Milan was.
Right.
But it wasn't just them, right?
Right.
Man City seemed a little bit checked off.
A little out of sorts, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that's known for their ruthlessness in front of goal, and they just didn't have that usual spark.
It's like they were stuck in second gear or something.
Yeah, it was definitely missing that clinical edge they usually have. And who knows, maybe it was partly psychological.
Oh, you think the pressure got to them?
Possibly. I mean, think about it. This is Man City. Everyone expects them to win, to dominate. Plus, they've got Haaland on the verge of breaking this massive record. That's got to weigh on you, right?
Yeah, I can see that. All eyes are on you. The pressure's on to deliver.
Exactly. And then you throw in Inter's defensive setup, which was really stifling. It disrupts your rhythm. You can't play your usual game. It makes you second-guess yourself.
And on top of all that, they lose De Bruyne to injury pretty early on.
Huge blow. De Bruyne, he's the maestro, right?
Yeah, he makes that whole team tick.
The creativity, the assists, he unlocks defenses. Losing him, especially that early, really hurt. You could see it in the second half. City just couldn't break through that interval.
Which leads to a bigger question that a lot of people are asking after this match. Did Inter Milan expose some kind of weakness in Man City's style of play?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because for a while now, City have been so dominant, teams haven't figured out how to counteract what they do.
Right. Like, they've been almost unbeatable.
Exactly. So for Inter to come in with such a disciplined, well-organized game plan and actually shut them down,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder.
Like, maybe they're as a blueprint out there to beat them.
Maybe. It'll be fascinating to see how other teams approach City now, if they'll try to replicate what Inter did.
And we got to talk about the commentary from the TNT sports guys.
Mm.
Les Scott, he was so impressed with Inter's defense.
He was loving it.
He was, saying it reminded him of some of the classic Italian defenses he played against back in the day. Just, that old school grit and tactical discipline.
And he's got a point. This Inter performance, it really did have that throwback feel. Solid, compact, frustrating to play against. Like you said, they weren't fazed by letting City have possession, but as soon as they got near that penalty area, forget it. Wall up, shut it down.
Rio Ferdinand, though, he was focused on those missed chances for City, especially the ones that fell to Gundogan late in the game.
Yeah, he felt City could have nicked it, if things had gone a bit differently.
Like if Gundogan had been just a little sharper with his finishing.
Exactly. And he's usually so reliable in those situations, popping up with those late goals. But it wasn't his night, clearly.
So Inter rode their luck a bit, maybe.
I think you earn your own luck sometimes. And they definitely put in the work to make those chances fall their way. Plus that Carney, quote, Inter class. I mean, she nailed it.
Yeah, couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah, they really were something else.
So what can we take away from all this? I mean, it was only the first match of the tournament, but still, it felt like a pretty significant result.
Huge.
Especially for Inter.
I mean, if you're an Inter fan,
right,
you got to be feeling pretty good right now.
You got to be feeling like you can take on the world.
Exactly. And I think for Man City, it's a wake-up call.
Definitely.
It's a reminder that they're not invincible.
That even they can be beaten on any given day.
Precisely. No matter how good you are, you can't afford to be complacent. You got to bring your A game every single time you step onto the pitch. And against a team like Inter, that's especially true.
Yeah, they showed the world that Man City are beatable.
Without a doubt. And they did it by playing smart, disciplined football.
So looking ahead, what are some of the things you'll be watching for, both from Man City and Inter Milan in their upcoming matches?
Well, for City, it's all about their response, isn't it? How do they bounce back from this? Do they stick to their guns, trust in their attacking prowess? Or does Pep Guardiola maybe tweak things a bit, maybe adopt a more pragmatic approach in certain matches?
I mean, they've got a big one coming up against Arsenal.
Right, exactly. Huge match. So it'll be interesting to see how Pep approaches that one. As for Inter, for me, it's about consistency. Can they maintain this level? They obviously put in a heroic effort against City, but can they do it week in, week out?
Against the best teams in Europe.
Exactly. That's the challenge now. It's one thing to pull off a result like this once, but to do it consistently, that's what separates the good teams from the great ones.
So a lot of intrigue going forward then.
Absolutely. This Champions League season, it's already shaping up to be a classic.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
Me too. And this match, this goalless draw, it was a perfect example of why we love this sport.
Because it's not always about the goals.
Exactly.
It's about the tactics, the drama, the passion, the unexpected.
It's about those moments that leave you speechless, even when the scoreboard doesn't.
Well said. Well, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, as always.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions. And remember, in football, just like in life, anything is possible.